You may have given the narcissist your love, support, and loyalty, only to watch them walk away as if none of it ever mattered. This can be extremely confusing and painful for victims. It can leave you feeling invalidated and questioning everything, to where you may struggle with the unfairness of it all. Because you gave your best love, support, loyalty, and you didn't do anything to deserve being discarded or replaced. So it's natural to wonder, how could they just walk away? How could they go elsewhere after everything I did for them? The confusion comes from relating your situation with a narcissist to being in a normal relationship with a normal person. You are expecting a narcissist to think and feel the way a normal, empathetic person does. You assume that because you treated them well, they should appreciate it and value you. But narcissists don't see relationships the same way. They don't share the same value system as emotionally healthy people do. They don't genuinely value mutual appreciation, loyalty, or long-term emotional bonds. Instead, their values are centered around power, control, validation, and self-interest. While you may see relationships as built on trust, respect, and long-term commitment, they see them as transactional, what they can get from someone in the moment. If their needs aren't being met, or if they find a new source of supply, they have no problem discarding people without guilt. This is why their behaviour is so confusing. You expect appreciation for what you've given, but they only appreciate people as long as they're useful. Once you understand that their values are completely different, it becomes clear why they act the way they do. Narcissists prioritize utility over emotional connection. They judge people based on how much they serve their needs in the moment, rather than valuing them for who they are. It's all about what you provide. Whether it's attention, admiration, financial support, status, or even just a sense of control over someone. Narcissists don't just want someone who meets their needs. They want someone they can manipulate and feel superior to. So losing you doesn't register as a true loss in the way that it would for a normal person, because they never truly valued you as an individual, only what you provided. They don't grieve the relationship itself. They only feel a loss if it negatively impacts their self-image, status, or supply. If they do show signs of regret, it's usually because they lost a form of supply they can't easily replace, not because they truly miss or appreciate you. But from your perspective, it's incredibly frustrating and painful. You gave the narcissist your best love, loyalty, and support, far more than anyone else ever did. You assumed they'd recognize and appreciate that, especially when others treat them poorly in comparison. Logically, you expect gratitude, but instead they take it for granted, devalue you, and often discard you like you never mattered. It feels like a cruel paradox. The better you treat them, the worse they treat you. It's as if that kindness and devotion only make them lose respect for you, while they chase after people who give them nothing. This leaves you questioning everything. Why didn't my love matter? Why didn't they appreciate what I did? How can they just walk away like I was nothing? The harsh truth is that narcissists don't value love and care the way you do. They thrive on control, novelty, and the chase. So the more you give, the less they feel the need to keep you. Narcissists rely on psychological defense mechanisms to avoid feeling the pain of loss, self-reflection, or guilt. Instead of ruminating like a normal person, they use denial, repression, projection, and devaluation to protect their fragile ego. Because of these defenses, they don't process loss the way a normal person would. While you're left hurting, reflecting, and trying to make sense of it, they quickly distract themselves with new supply, work, or self-justifications. The pain only catches up to them if their defenses fail. Like when new supply doesn't work out, or when they face serious consequences. But typically, narcissists don't process reality the way normal people do. Their defense mechanisms distort their experiences, allow them to avoid uncomfortable truths. Instead of recognizing that they lost something valuable, they rewrite the story to protect their ego. At first, they saw you as amazing, perfect, even ideal. But when their needs or feelings changed, they flipped the script. Suddenly, you became the problem, and everything about you was flawed. Instead of accepting responsibility for their own actions, they convinced themselves and others that you were always bad, you were always difficult, you were always dishonest. Even if it contradicts reality, they believe it. Because it shields them from self-reflection. So rather than admitting they lost something good, they downplay your value. This helps them move on quickly without feeling regret, and it's why their treatment feels so shocking and unfair. Because you went from being their world to being worthless in their eyes. And not even because of anything you did, but because their ego couldn't handle reality. Instead of grieving, they devalue and discard you, making you wonder if everything was a lie, when in reality, it's just how their distorted mind copes. Instead of admitting they caused the loss, they shift the blame onto you, other people, or external circumstances. Their ego can't handle the idea that they were the problem, so they create a new version of reality, where they're the victim or hero, never the villain. This protects their ego and helps them move on quickly, while leaving you stuck with the confusion and the pain. Meanwhile, they avoid ever having to reflect, learn, or take responsibility, because in their mind it's never their fault. Denial is one of their strongest defense mechanisms. Instead of acknowledging the loss, they act like it never mattered, as if you were insignificant to them all along. They may even pretend to be completely unbothered, to where they're jumping into a new relationship, or flaunting their happiness to make it seem like they've effortlessly moved on. But this denial isn't true emotional strength. It's a way to avoid feeling the pain. The reality is these defense mechanisms exist because they can't handle deep emotions like loss, regret, or shame. If they were to truly sit with those feelings, their fragile self-image would start to crumble. This is why at some point these defenses may fail them. And then they may often return to secondary defense mechanisms like escapism, reckless behaviour, or revenge. And they may have seemed unaffected at first, but these behaviours are signs that they are struggling, just in an unhealthy, self-destructive way. The deeper the wound, the more extreme their need for distraction. So by this point, you may have realised that while narcissists may seem unaffected, in reality, they're actually more disturbed by the loss than anyone else. They just refuse to admit it to themselves. Because admitting loss, failure, or inadequacy would shatter that illusion. So they scramble to protect themselves through defense mechanisms like denial, projection, blame shifting, minimization, distraction, and escapism. They use all of these strategies because the loss actually affects them deeply, but in a way they can't handle. Unlike emotionally healthy people who can sit with grief and eventually heal, narcissists are terrified of emotional pain. Their defenses are like a dam holding back a flood. If it cracks even a little, the emotions they've been avoiding for years could come rushing in, leading to extreme distress or even narcissistic collapse. So ironically, while they may seem indifferent, they're actually more emotionally fragile than anyone else. That's why they go to such extremes, to avoid facing reality. And it's why they will never admit that they were the cause of the problem, because doing so will be psychologically unbearable for them. Their entire self-image is built on the belief that they are superior, faultless, and always in control. So if they were to acknowledge that they were the reason for the loss, it would shatter that illusion and expose the deep insecurity they've been running from their whole lives. That's why they create an alternate reality, where they were the victim, the hero, or simply over it from the start. So no matter how much evidence there is that they were the problem, they will always find a way to shift the narrative, to shield themselves from feeling guilt, regret, or emotional pain. Their defense mechanisms allow them to move on rapidly without reflection, accountability, or genuine emotional processing. Instead of sitting with uncomfortable feelings like regret, guilt, or sadness, they immediately rewrite the story in a way that protects their ego. By blaming you, denying the significance of the relationship, or diving into distractions, they effectively bypass the normal grieving process. They don't stop to ask themselves, what did I do wrong? Or how could I have handled things differently? Because that level of self-reflection would threaten their fragile self-image. So this is why they seem to move on so fast, sometimes jumping into a new relationship almost overnight. But in reality, they're not truly moving on. They're just avoiding. They don't heal, they don't grow, and they don't learn from their mistakes. They just keep repeating the same cycle, dragging their unresolved emotional wounds into the next situation. Meanwhile, the person they left behind is stuck processing everything. Because unlike the narcissist, you actually felt the relationship, valued it, and are capable of real emotional depth. The narcissist, on the other hand, is simply running from the truth, keeping themselves in a never-ending loop of avoidance. Narcissists don't form deep, meaningful bonds the way emotionally healthy people do. Their relationships are based on what the other person provides, rather than genuine emotional connection. Because they lack true self-reflection, so they never fully realize what they lost. Instead of fully recognizing that they let go of something valuable, they view loss as a temporary inconvenience, something that can be quickly replaced with a new source of supply. They don't stop to process emotional significance of what happened, they just move on to whatever serves their ego in the moment. Narcissists don't feel true regret in the way a normal person does, where you reflect on your actions, recognize your mistakes, and feel genuine remorse. Instead, their version of regret is purely self-serving. They only feel it when they realize they can no longer use the person or situation to their benefit, or when they see you thrive without them. But not because they truly miss or value you. Instead, it's because your success contradicts their belief that they were superior and in control. It bruises their ego, triggers jealousy, makes them feel powerless, and creates a need to reassert dominance. So even if they return, it's not because they've suddenly recognized your worth or feel genuine remorse. It's because they want to regain control over what they once had. When a narcissist appears indifferent to losing something valuable, it's not because the loss doesn't matter. It's because their skewed value system, psychological defense mechanisms, and inability to form deep emotional connections prevent them from processing it the way a normal person would. It's not that the loss had no impact. It's just that their mind is wired to block it out, devalue it and move on, rather than process it in a normal, healthy way. They don't process loss the way emotionally healthy people do, which makes them appear callous, uncaring and even cruel when they move on so easily. But a narcissist's inability to appreciate you does not define your worth. Their lack of regret, gratitude or recognition is a reflection of their dysfunction, not your value. They will never fully appreciate you because they are never truly satisfied. No matter how much you give, they will always want more. And they don't share the same values. Love, loyalty and emotional depth mean little to them compared to power, control and validation. So they always see things in reverse. What you consider to be valuable is seen as a weakness or something to exploit, while manipulation, dominance and superiority are what they value. Since they are wired this way, they will never see the loss the way you do. No matter how good you were to them, they will always find a way to justify or minimize losing you. That's why seeking closure from them is pointless. They are incapable of the kind of emotional depth required to truly recognize and regret what they lost. So instead of taking their indifference personally, it helps to see it for what it really is, a fundamental flaw in them, not a reflection of you. Your worth is not determined by someone who is never capable of valuing you in the first place. Thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Share your thoughts in the comment section. Hit the subscribe button to receive the notifications. If you would like to support the channel, you can donate at paypal.me/Narc Survivor. You can book a one-on-one with me on my website. It's narcsurvivor.co.uk. Thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.